like how this the app is here, like it's really large. So like it's large because it's awesome. You don't need Wi-Fi. Like I don't have connected Wi-Fi right now. But yeah.
Does it work well on
He said it'll be slower though. Like it won't be all high definition fast.
It's better to have on your phone.
Yeah, or a tablet. I like it because I've just got this person that's pretty it's 10 inches.
Yeah.
It's like $79 on Black Friday. There was a link on the paper. So I just followed it.
It's just too much.
One of my teachers
Now when you log in,
one of like this program yesterday we were like switch
I'm
around
gonna make it around the lodge.
figure out like
but I'm not sure if we're gonna say for the app.
What's going on, Nick? What's up, Nick?
English, I'm already halfway through and I got all 4 marks, so that one will be like.
Too close. We'll work it out.
No way.
No. Whatever program.
I did.
Yeah, I know.
What's this program called? Invisible Life or something like that?
What's that program? How many people for the lab?
Yeah.
When I had lab.
If they give me exactly like this.
Oh, my friend, one ended 2 days from now. I'm sorry. A month.
Wait on it.
I think they like it already. Next time, sitting right there. And then I see Nick in second class. You sitting there, I said, okay, I got something to see.
Oh, you, I took your signal.
You good, I got you. That's like pushing down. Look at y'all. So the
You're in statistics too, aren't you?
yeah.
You,
But my he was pretty easy and like all the quick and stuff was so much.
No,
It's like I lose control.
Right down.
It's music like Dr. K or Professor K.
Was it looking?
This ain't no yeah.
How many to wear? Salad.
I learned how to travel and then my car stopped working. I had to do one thing.
Salad. Downtown. View. Yeah, I can't. I was there.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. It's like,
what's your name?
hey, come on, Instagram. Both. Yeah.
Alright, good afternoon. How you doing today? Great. Alright, so this is what we've been waiting for. Alright, so I posted an announcement now on your blackboard, so whenever you open your blackboard, you will find this announcement on here. So first thing is gonna be showing the PowerPoint. So when you press here, it will download the PowerPoint presentations and that guides you if you're gonna have any problems. It will also state the customer service numbers and how to get to the support for visibility from this publisher, from this company. It also shows you the registration process and how to download the apps and all the stuff that you might course link is gonna be when you press on link here. If for any reason your internet browser is not supporting the link, or for any problem you've got with the link on here, so whenever you press on the link, it will direct you to the course like this. So if you've got any problems with the link here, you can just copy. So you select the link here. I put another URL here for you. So you're gonna select it, copy, and you paste it on the URL site from your browser. So select like this. Yeah, it's not selected. Right, so you copy. So you're gonna copy this URL on here, and whenever you copy it, it will give you access to the course. This is how it should look like for you. So make sure it's AP2 BSc 2086. This is what it's gonna look like for you when you first press on the link, or whatever way you do to access the link, or if you open your PowerPoint presentation, also the link is gonna be inside your specific course link. So you're gonna be copying the link from the PowerPoint presentation on the second slide, and you open your browser, paste, and this is what you will end up with. So we'll tell you, you're new to courseware, so you're gonna be putting your email. I will highly recommend you to use your school email. I highly recommend to use the school email. Alright, so let's try this out. So I put the fake email on here, get started. You're gonna be using your email. You copy the capture. Then you create a password, whatever password you choose. So let's see here. Name, then your last name. I agree. I'm not a robot here. We continue. So. So this is how it's going to look like for you when you get into the course in order to register. So if you need to purchase, you go to checkout. You're going to be using your whatever card that you've got, and you buy it. It's going to be for $50 if you purchase it online. If you are using your financial aid funds, you have this code for a higher price in the bookstore. So if you are using your financial aid, you can still get it through the bookstore, and this will provide you with an activation code that you're gonna enter on here, and then you press read. not sure, they give you 2-week trial. If you're not sure you're gonna be completing the course or not, and you still want to access the information while you're still not sure, you can use this trial period for 2 weeks. Alright? How it's gonna look like when you log in. So you have only Unit 1 assignments posted so far. Those are how the assignments will look like. If you can turn off the lights, please. Alright, so this is how it's gonna look like when you open your course. Those are not gonna be graded. Those are not part of your graded assignment. For the graded assignment, I mentioned that those are graded, and those are gonna be in the form of questions. Those other assignments will be kept for you until the end of the semester. Those are study tools. So you're gonna open, you have, for example, an animation, a video that you might be willing to watch. That would be providing more explanation, more in-depth explanation of a complicated topic or so far. Alright, so I did select the parts from the different apps and I inserted them in the units that we're going to be working from. So, for example, heart conduction, the electrical impulses that we did discuss last time, for example. The SA node, AV bundle.
Nerve tissue called the sinoatrial, or SA node. The impulse makes the atria contract, and blood empties into the ventricles. Next, the impulse travels to the atrioventricular, or AV node. It passes through the bundle of His, the bundle branches, and the Purkinje fibers. As the impulse reaches the ventricles, it triggers a contraction there, and the heart ejects blood.
So at this point, there is nothing you need to do other than going through if you want. But I find them so helpful, that's why I put them for you as part of your assignment. Alright, but you will not be getting grades for watching those videos. They will help you get a better understanding of the topics that we are discussing. Alright? The graded assignments. So we've got two. We've got the cardiac system, which is going to be the heart chapter, and we got the vascular system. So this is chapter 18, and this would be chapter 19. And those would be in the form of questions. So you have many quizzes that you need to complete. And we've got 4 unit assignments. Each one going to be 25% of your assignment's grade. So for the heart, for example, is going to be for 15. All of this will be 15% of your assignment's grade. The vascular assignment, this one in here, the vascular system assignment, this would be for 10% of the assignment's grade. So both together will make 25% or 1/4 of the total assignment grade. Alright? So whenever you open the assignments, the graded assignments, so you will find on here, I did put a note, a description here. So you need to complete the assignment as early as possible because they will not be available for you to take after the due date. The due dates that I will recommend you to use are the ones in your tentative course schedule. Those ones which are before your exam day. The day before your exam day. Those are my recommended due dates. The actual due dates are the ones on your software, which are few days after your exam. But this means if you did complete those assignments after your exam, those will not help you with the preparation for your test. So, and again, what's the difference between the due date on the schedules that I have and this due date on the software? This is my recommended due date. This is the actual due date, which is gonna be few days after their recommended due date. Why I do this recommended due date? Simply for you to use the assignments as study tools for you to prepare for the exams. All right? Any questions? Any questions? Is everything clear concerning courseware? For the single device, the single mobile device, what will I do with the active? So you see, I can't access everything in the assignments. I can't access the apps just by signing into my account. I can access everything from anywhere. All right. If you want to download the apps or to access them through the courseware, this is where you need to go. My apps on the left. So when you press on the apps, either you want to open them in a web browser, and you see here it's gonna be a little slow if you decided to open them through the web browser. Alright, because it has lots of information to be downloaded every time you open the app. But again, you're gonna have full access to the app through any device if you are using your courseware. Another way for you to use the apps is to share them to your iPhone, iPad, or Android devices. And if I decided to use those apps to download them, I will need to use my username and password to activate the app. I need to use this username and password to activate the app, and the app is gonna be only activated one time. So if you decided to use my username and password, they will not allow you to use them simply because I did register a product before. So if I did activate the license for those apps on my phone, I would not be able to use the same license to activate it later on another mobile device. To use the same username and password again. All right? Those apps are not essential for you to do any of the assignments, for you to do anything in the course. So if you want to keep your username and password to not activate your products for later on, this is gonna be fine. I don't have a problem with it. This is part of your purchase. They are providing you with those apps at a much discounted price. So if you go directly to the App Store or the Play Store, each app is gonna be for 20, 30 bucks to get. All right, so you can access all of them as part of the purchase of this courseware. All right. Any questions concerning how many devices should I be using? How come I'm not able to use? What if I'm using a different device at one time? Anything won't be affected. Anything won't be affecting your ability to access your assignments, your ability to access your apps. Anything you will be able to find on your courseware. But if you want a faster access to the apps, you might be willing to download them on your mobile device. Yes.
Two questions. One question is, you say use the school email? Why do you
Recommended.
Why you want us to use the school email?
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because this is the policy of the school.
Okay, so we should use the school for that, access to that.
So, if you want to access it through a different email and we've got into a problem with the other email, I will never be able to help you.
Okay.
So I will never call the IT and ask them, you've got a problem with the email, your Gmail, for example, because they won't help.
Okay.
But if you've got a problem with your school email, at this point, yes, without losing the information, I can still get in contact with the IT guys, and they might be able to fix the problem, because this is on our ground.
Okay.
All right?
And then the second question is, this is a one-time purchase, is it a lifetime purchase?
It's I believe it will say it's gonna be active for 2 years, your ability to access courseware, but you need to have an invitation link. So if you're taking a different course, and you've got an activation link to this course, but for me, I will drop all of you at the end of the semester from the course. All right, because I will be using the same material another time for different students. But you can still access it for 2 years, but you need to be enrolled in a class for the instructor to allow you in. All right. But again, you're still gonna access those apps for 2 years, because you don't need to be registered in a course in order to access the apps, if you want to access them through the courseware. Questions? Any technical questions? Again, no assignments gonna be due before the date. Alright, this is not my recommended due date. My recommended due date is on your tentative course schedule. Alright? Alright, so what we discussed so far in the heart. Remember together, where we did have how many chambers in my heart? 4 chambers. 2 are going to be receiving the blood from different tissues. Those are my small chambers. Those are called my atria. And 2 big chambers that will be pumping the blood out. Those are called what? Ventricles. So we've got right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. Remember, 3 major vessels that would be getting the blood to my heart. So any vessels that would be getting the blood to the heart, those are called veins. Remember? So we've got 2 major veins that will drain all the organs except for the heart. Those are my superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and my coronary sinus, a smaller vein that drains directly into my right atrium, and it's going to be draining my heart tissue itself. What you're going to do is this deoxygenated blood coming from all the organs is going to be passing from your right atrium to your right ventricle. And then the right ventricle, if you remember, is going to pump the blood up your lungs through the pulmonary trunk. That will then divide into right branch and left branch. Those are my pulmonary arteries. Why do we call them arteries? Although they do have deoxygenated blood, we call them arteries simply because they carry the blood away from the heart. So reaching the lungs, what's going to happen in my lungs? We're going to have the external respiration, as we're going to learn later on. What I mean by the external respiration, I will be performing gas exchange. I will be removing the carbon dioxide, and I will be adding oxygen to my red blood cells. So now the deoxygenated blood is going to become oxygenated, and it will be drained back to your heart through 4 major veins. Those are my right and left pulmonary veins. You got 2 right pulmonary, 2 left pulmonary. All the 4 will drain into my left atrium. Left atrium allows the blood to move down to the left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle, the blood will be pumped out, reach all the systemic organs through the largest artery of the body. This would be the aorta. Remember, what allows you to maintain this unidirectional flow? I move only in one direction. I cannot move in the opposite direction. Is the presence of valves. And if you remember, we do have 2 sets of valves. Those are my AV valves and my semilunar valves. AV valves are going to be guarding here the entrance of the blood from the atria to the ventricles, and will prevent the flow of the blood from my ventricles to the atria. Remember, on the right side, I have a valve with 3 cusps, so we're going to call it my tricuspid valve. And on the left side, we're going to have bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Looking here at the base of the pulmonary trunk and at the base of the aorta, we did see semilunar valves that will allow the blood to flow from the ventricles to the large arteries, was it pulmonary trunk or aorta, and will prevent the backflow of the blood to my ventricles. At the base of the pulmonary trunk, we've seen the pulmonary semilunar valve, and at the base of the aorta, we've seen the aortic semilunar valve. We've then discussed the 1% of the cardiac muscle cells that will have automaticity. If you remember what's meant by automaticity, I am self-excited. I can generate my own electrical impulses. I don't rely on an external stimulus to generate my cardiac contraction. So if we didn't cut all the nerves go into the heart will still gonna be contracted. Why? Because it generates its own electrical impulses. The normal pacemaker that your heart will follow, this will be my SNO. Why the heart chooses to follow SNO? Because this is the fastest note. It creates depolarizations. Can you remind me of the number? How many depolarizations? 75 depolarizations on average. So this can be increased and decreased. And remember which nervous system will be regulating your heart rate and force of contraction. My sympathetic and parasympathetic are part of my autonomic nervous system. So sympathetic is going to be increasing my heart rate, parasympathetic is going to be reducing my heart rate. How parasympathetic and sympathetic will be increasing or decreasing the heart rate, can you remind me? What is the neurotransmitter for the sympathetic? Is going to be norepinephrine. And what is the neurotransmitter for the parasympathetic nervous system? It's going to be acetylcholine. Remember the effect of norepinephrine. I need to spend less time for me to depolarize. So I need to perform a partial depolarization. Rather than starting from here, I will start from here. So I take less time. Each time I will depolarize. So in order for me to allow partial depolarization, you need to open what channels? Sodium channels would be responsible for the depolarization. And once I open sodium channel, what's going to happen? Sodium flows from high concentration outside of the cells to the inside of the cells. Inside will become more positive, so I will be moving. And if I want to reduce the heart rate under the effect of acetylcholine will be binding to the cells and will cause the opening of potassium. So this is my resting membrane. If I want to slow the heart rate, you open potassium, acetylcholine effect. If you want to have a faster heart rate, take less time for each depolarization that you create, you're going to open sodium channels. And once you open sodium channels, it's going to be faster to depolarize. Spending less time for each depolarization means you have more depolarizations per minute. What's going to happen? After you depolarize, you take the depolarization from the SE node. Remember, you have gap junctions between the cardiac muscle cells, so the electricity will travel freely to both atria at the same time, not to my ventricles. Why not to my ventricles? Because you have only one connection between your atria and your ventricles, and this would be AV node. And remember, the AV node cells will have less gap junctions, which will reduce the speed of the electrical conduction. How long would I have a delay here? 0.1 seconds. So what's going to happen next? The electrical impulse is going to pass down from the AV node to the AV bundle, or the bundle of His. And the bundle of His, or the AV bundle, will divide into right branch and left branch. Those are my right and left bundle branches. The bundle branches are going to be traveling through the septum that separates the right and left ventricles from each other, and will reach my atrius. At this point, you're going to be conducting the electrical impulses to smaller fibers that will allow the electricity to travel to the cells of your ventricles. What do we call those fibers? Those are my Purkinje fibers. So what's going to happen next? My ventricles, both of them, will depolarize in the same time. Remember, any depolarization needs to be followed by repolarization. And remember, I need to prolong the time for me to repolarize my cardiac muscle cells in order for me to have enough time to relax. And why do you need more time to relax? Why do I need more time to relax my heart cells? Because this is the time for me to refill. Remember, if I didn't refill my chambers, I have nothing to pump on the next beat. So I need to increase the time needed for me to repolarize. And remember how I did this, how I did increase the time needed for repolarization to take place. I did allow calcium in. While I'm moving the potassium out, I will allow calcium in, so the voltage will remain constant for a period of time. And we call this time, this is my plateau phase. Another benefit from increasing the time of the repolarization is that I've increased the time in which I am not responding to any stimulus. Can you remind me what did we call this time? Absolute refractory period, exactly. So if you got a stimulus on here, another stimulus on here, will your cardiac muscle cells respond? No. So whatever the rate of depolarization, you need to have time to relax. Because if you kept depolarizing, and respond to this depolarization, what will be the response to depolarization? You contract. Unlike the skeletal muscles, your cardiac muscle cells will not pass in a continuous contraction. Technically. Why? Because it needs to relax. And how it will relax, regardless of the number of electrical impulses that you are creating, regardless of the stimulations that you are receiving to your cardiac muscle cells, by having an increased absolute refractory period due to the plateau phase. We did record the electrical changes that will be taking place in the heart. Remember, first thing that we're going to be recording is going to be the atrial depolarization, and this is going to be recorded on the EKG as P wave. We're going to have this 0.1 second delay in the conduction, no change in the electrical impulse, and then the electricity will be passing to my ventricles, and my ventricles will depolarize, and the ventricular depolarization is going to be recorded as a complex of 3 waves. This will be my QRS complex. What happens after you depolarize? Any depolarization is going to be followed by repolarization. My ventricles, once they repolarize, the EKG will detect another electrical wave. This will be my
T-phase.
Do you remember why I can see atrial repolarization on my EKG? Simply because it takes place in the same time as the ventricular depolarization. So the QRS is going to be masking the atrial repolarization. So what can I see on the EKG? Starting P wave representing A3 and D, and then QRS complex representing ventricular depolarization, and then finally T wave will represent my ventricular repolarization. We follow the sequence of events here, and the sequence of events that will be taking place in the heart, this is what we call the cardiac cycle. Remember, this will be summarizing all the things that we've discussed. Remember, the first thing to be detected on the EKG is going to be my P wave, which represents my atrial depolarization. And what follows depolarization? How will I respond to depolarization? I will contract. So atria now will contract, squeezing almost 20% of the remaining blood into your ventricles. So my ventricles gonna be partially filled before atrial contraction, and we're gonna see why. Do you remember why? Why would I have 80% of the blood already in my ventricles without having any atrial contraction yet?
Goes from the less to higher
Higher pressure.
High pressure to lower pressure, but why? How did I have this pressure difference before atrial contraction? Didn't I need to contract my atria to create this high pressure?
It happens at the same time as
So here, I'm saying here, blood is moving from the atria to the ventricles. But you see on here, atria only gonna be squeezing 20% of the blood. How did I get the other 80%? If I didn't have any atrial contraction before this, I did just contract my atria. Do you remember? Valves are open due to pressure difference. But what is the main thing that will allow the blood to flow from your atria to your ventricles without having atrial contraction? Of yes. Relaxation of the ventricles is the main factors that will
allows the blood to flow from your atria to your ventricles. It allows almost 80% of the blood to flow from your atria to your ventricles. It's just the suction pressure, negative pressure created in your ventricles. This allows 80% of the blood to move. You don't have to contract your atria. Even a person can live with atrial fibrillation, if you remember. I don't have a problem with this. If I drink lots of coffee, I am so anxious, I smoke lots of cigarettes, so what's going to happen? Atrial fibrillation. My atria will fibrillate like this, and they are not contracted. So what's going to happen? Will I die?
No.
No. Why I won't die? Because simply you get the blood not due to the atrial contraction, but mainly due to ventricular relaxation. So you squeeze the remaining part of the blood down from your atria to the ventricles due to atrial contraction. And what's going to be recorded next? Can you remind me?
QRS.
QRS representing
Ventricular
depolarization. When I
depolarization.
depolarize, I will
Contract.
contract. And when I contract, what's going to happen to the tension of the wall of my ventricles? Will it increase or
Tighten.
decrease? Increase the tension. And when I increase the tension, what's going to happen to the pressure inside? Increases. So now I've reached the pressure higher than my atria. So will the blood be moving up back to your atria? No. So what's going to happen when you are trying to move the blood back to the atria from your ventricles? What's going to close? AV valves. As I keep contracting, as I increase the pressure within my ventricles, what's going to happen? Now I have pressure in my ventricles higher than the pressure in my vessels, in my aorta and pulmonary trunk. And at this point, this pressure difference will allow you to open your semilunar valves. And when I open semilunar valves, what heart sound will I hear? When I open semilunar valves, what heart sound will I hear? First or second heart sound?
Second.
Second heart sound?
Second.
First heart sound? Again, I'll give you a few seconds to read things. Alright, so when you open semilunar valves, what heart sound would you hear? First heart sound or second heart sound? First. Second. Actually, you won't hear anything.
So we don't raise our hand.
Alright? What are the heart sounds?
The valves
You
open.
close. You close. When you open, you hear nothing.
Nice little trick
So when
question
you
there.
open semilunar valves, what heart sound will I hear?
Nothing.
Alright? So what's going to happen when you open semilunar valves? Blood will be ejected. Blood's going to be moving from my ventricles to my pulmonary trunk and aorta. Then, what's going to be recorded next on your EKG?
T-wave.
T-wave. And when I what is the significance of the T-wave is ventricular repolarization. And when you repolarize, you relax. So relax your ventricles. So what's going to happen to the tension of the wall of the ventricles? Reduced. And as a result, what happens to the pressure inside your ventricles?
Reduced.
So now I have low pressure in my ventricles compared to my pulmonary trunk and aorta. So the blood is going to be trying to move backwards. Will it be able to move back to my ventricles from the aorta and pulmonary trunk?
No.
Why? Because you're going to have
Semilunar valves.
that will
Close.
As I keep reducing the tension to a certain level, now I created a low pressure in my ventricles, lower than my atria.
Atria.
So what's going to happen at this point? Blood is going to flow from my atria to the ventricles, from high pressure within the atria to low pressure within your ventricles. And this is the main factor that allows the blood to flow down from your atria to your ventricles. Around 80% of the blood is going to flow just
due to ventricular relaxation. Alright, so once I open AV valves, what heart sound will I hear?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So, you're taking the blood pressure. You're taking for the systolic and diastolic. What sound do you have when you take this?
We're gonna discuss it in 2 classes from now. We are mainly focusing in the heart. We're gonna move outside of the heart to the vessels next chapter. Right? This will be the most important topic that we're gonna cover in system as the blood pressure. Lots of integration with the kidney, lots of integration with the heart, lots of integration with the blood vessels, a lot of integration with the blood pressure. But systolic means ventricular contraction, during ventricular contraction. Diastolic means during ventricular relaxation. We're going to discuss the details when we get to this point. Alright? Questions? So again, quickly. P wave is going to be marking atrial depolarization, which is going to be followed by atrial contraction. And when I contract, what's going to happen? You squeeze out the 20% remaining of the blood from the atria to the ventricles. What's going to be recorded next? QRS complex. What is the significance of QRS? Ventricular depolarization. When you depolarize, you contract. So when I contract my ventricles, I'm creating a higher pressure in my ventricles compared to my atria. So as I contract my ventricles, my atria will not receive blood. Why? Because simply you're going to be closing AV valve. And when I close AV valves, what heart sound will I create? Close AV valves, you're going to have your first heart sound. When I close AV valves, I will have first heart sound. Lung. So close AV valves, lung, first heart sound. And then keep increasing the pressure within your ventricles to the level where it exceeds the pressure within my pulmonary trunk and aorta. So now I will open semilunar valves. Will I hear any heart sound when I open semilunar valves? No. So blood will be ejected, will move from my ventricles to my pulmonary trunk and aorta. Recorded next on the EKG is going to be my T wave, which represents ventricular repolarization. When you do repolarize, you relax. So now my ventricles are relaxing, creating low pressure inside the ventricles, and this low pressure will be trying to suck the blood from the vessels. So I'm trying to move the blood now from my pulmonary trunk and aorta back to my ventricles. Would I be able to get the blood back to my ventricles? Why? Because you're going to have semilunar valves at the base of the pulmonary trunk and aorta. So now my semilunar valves will close. And when I close semilunar valves, what heart sound will I hear? Second heart sound. Second heart sound. Alright? As I keep reducing the tension of the wall of my ventricles, what's going to happen? Creating low pressure in my ventricles compared to my atria, and this will allow me to move the blood from my atria to the ventricles, allowing my AV valves to open. And when I open AV valves, do I hear any heart sounds? No. No heart sounds when you open, heart sounds only when you close. So first is due to AV valve closure, and second heart sound is due to semilunar valve closure. We did stop at this point last time, and I did ask you a question. If you have a patient and you're gonna be checking his heart sound, you're gonna hear which one gonna be first heart sound, which one gonna be the second heart sound. It is so difficult just to identify first from second from the pitch of a sound. And if you remember what we did here is the heart sounds, you just told me first, second, or second, first. So you will never be able to just figure it out from the pitch of the sound and how it sounds like. All right, unless you have been working a cardiologist for years. All right, you have high sensitivity to which one is first, which one is second, just by hearing the sound. All right, but for our level, how would we be able to identify first and second? Not from the sound itself. How will you be able to tell? You have a patient, you have a stethoscope, and that's it.
Maybe the second part sound is louder than the first part.
Without checking any difference between the sounds, the two sounds.
It's a stronger pulse.
The pulse.
The ventricular contraction is stronger. Yeah, as opposed to the rest of the body.
Pulse, yes. What is the pulse?
S1 and S2.
Yeah, this first and second are
They're
sound.
like the beats in the pulse.
What's in the pulse?
The pulse is like maybe the ventricular contraction.
What is the pulse?
The pressure. Is that the pulse when the blood goes down to the body?
The
pressure.
It's basically pushing the blood through the system. So
Pulse. Where do you feel the pulse?
On your wrist.
On your wrist.
So one of the most common regions to check the pulse is going to be radial artery or the carotid arteries, for example. What do you feel?
The blood being pushed through the artery.
So at this sometimes you're gonna have blood, and sometimes you won't.
blood pushing it.
I feel the heartbeat.
The pushing
It's
the
a
blood.
heartbeat. What is a heartbeat? The muscle contraction. The vibration of the contraction will be traveling up through your arteries, so you can feel the vibration.
No, it's the pressure.
Do you feel an opening and closure?
It's the pressure.
It's a sound, just a sound. You don't feel a sound. You hear a sound.
You feel the pressure of the
You feel the pressure of the blood
It's the
flow.
pressure.
You feel the pressure in the blood flow.
Yeah.
It means that sometimes you have pressure, sometimes you don't.
It's the pushing of the blood,
It's like, you know,
blood from your heart to
how strong.
your
It's the
body.
cardiac cycle. It's got something to do.
What do you think? You have blood flow all the time, or during ventricular contraction and not during ventricular relaxation? So what I feel is the difference between two pressures. During ventricular contraction, you're gonna have systolic pressure, and during ventricular relaxation, you're gonna have a lower pressure, which is diastolic blood pressure. What you feel is the difference between those two pressures. You don't feel the blood flow. You don't feel the pressure itself. You feel the difference between the two pressures. And any receptor, it's designed to detect change. So for example, are you moving right now?
Yes. You always move.
Is the class moving right now?
Yes.
The walls,
No.
the floor, yes? At least half of the class.
Yeah, on a quantum scale, yeah.
Yes, because the world is
I mean,
Yeah, because the Earth is rotating around its own axis and around the sun, right?
right.
So we are moving right now. Do you feel this movement?
No.
Why you don't feel it?
Because it's a
This
constant change.
constant. It is constant. You feel only the change. You don't feel the movement. Same concept. If you are on a bus, do you feel that you are constantly pulled forward? Do you feel the movement itself all the time? Yeah. But you're gonna feel whenever you accelerate or decelerate. Whenever you speed up or slow down, you feel not
the movement, you feel the change in speed. Same here. I don't feel the pressure, I feel the change in the pressure. All right, so the pulse is detecting the change between two pressures. The pressure of the blood during ventricular contraction and the pressure of the blood during ventricular relaxation. And the difference here is what will be the pulse. So when will I feel the pulse?
Open and close
When I contract my ventricles. So if I'm listening and feeling the pulse in the same time, which heart sound will I hear when I feel the pulse? The one that will be during ventricular contraction. Which heart sound will be taking place during ventricular contraction, first or second?
Second.
Look at the diagram. So what is first heart sound? What is first heart sound? AV node, AV valve closure, or similar valve closure? AV valve closure. So this is my first heart sound. So which heart sound will I hear when I feel the pulse? It's gonna be. So again, when do you feel the pulse? When you contract your ventricles. And which heart sound will you hear when you contract your ventricles? It's gonna be first. So the sounds that I will hear when I feel the pulse is gonna be first heart sound, and the other sounds that I will hear without feeling the pulse, this will be second heart sound. So what I will hear, love. All right, so let me do it. Love dub, love dub, love dub, love dub, love dub, love dub. First, feel the pulse. Second, without pulse. First, pulse. Second, without pulse. First, AV valve closure is during ventricular contraction. AV valve closure is during ventricular contraction. Yeah, but you're going to tell me AV valves will close before the blood flows to your artery. Yes, it's a matter of 0.03 seconds, something like that. So you won't be able to tell that it's delayed. So the sounds that you're going to hear with the pulse, this is my first heart sound, and the one without pulse, this will be second heart sound. All right? Questions? All right, so moving on to another topic. This will be my cardiac output, and the cardiac output. So again, first heart sound is AV valves closing. It's going to be second heart sound, similar valve. What is this? Systolic. Systolic means during contraction, ventricular contraction. And diastolic means it's going to be related to the ventricular relaxation. Moving on to the cardiac output. Cardiac output, this will be the volume of the blood that will be pumping by each ventricle per minute in 1 minute. So, how would I calculate the amount of blood pumped per minute? Cardiac output. So I will check the amount of blood pumped per beat. One time. This would be called my stroke volume. So again, what's the difference between cardiac output and stroke volume? Cardiac output is amount of blood pumped per 1 minute. What is the stroke volume? This is the amount of blood pumped per beat in a single contraction. And I will multiply the stroke volume by the heart rate. And what is the heart rate? This is the number of ventricular contractions per minute. So if I told you, how many pens would I be producing per minute? If I told you that I would be producing 1 pen per second. So you're gonna be checking how many pens per second and multiply by the number of seconds per minute. Same concept on here. Cardiac output is the amount of blood pumped per 1 minute. How would we be able to calculate it? Amount of blood pumped per beat times how many beats per minute, heart rate. All right? Your resting cardiac output is about the same amount as your blood volume, almost the same amount as your blood volume, around 5 liters. That will be pumped per minute. So almost you're going to be pumping all the blood that you have in your system in 1 minute. The maximum cardiac output is going to be 4 to 5 times the resting cardiac output. And the maximum cardiac output for trained athletes is going to be much higher. It can go up to 35 liters per minute. So almost 7 times the resting cardiac output. Why? Because I have stronger cardiac muscle. So each time I will contract, I will be squeezing more blood. So more blood is going to be pumped out of my ventricles. So this will increase my stroke volume. So in a trained athlete, in resting conditions, what do you think his heart rate will be? Will I have below average heart rate, above average heart rate, or an average heart rate? Below average. Why? Because in resting conditions, you need to pump 5 liters per minute, and you have a strong cardiac muscle. You have an increase in your stroke volume. In order to maintain the same cardiac output, you will be reducing the heart rate. Alright, so athletes will have lower heart rate rather than a regular person. Alright? The difference between the resting cardiac output and the maximum cardiac output, this is what we're going to call the cardiac reserve. This is the amount of blood that I can pump in exercise, for example. So when I exercise, I have the ability to increase this cardiac output 4 to 5 times. The difference here is going to be my cardiac reserve. Moving on to how would I be able to tell the amount of blood pumped per beat in one contraction? What do you think? If you have an echo, and the echo is an ultrasound, that will be allowing you to check the size of the different organs. Are you familiar with the ultrasound? All right, so echo can be used to measure sizes. How would I be able to tell the amount of blood pumped per beat using an echo machine? So the ultrasound can see movement, but can it calculate amount? So will I be able to know what is the amount of blood that moved out of the ventricle by an ultrasound? Yes, it can tell me the direction of the flow, but it cannot tell me the amount. So how would I be using the ability of the echo to check the volumes, the sizes, to know the amount of blood pumped per beat, stroke volume? What do you think?
The size of the chamber before and after the contraction?
Exactly.
So if I'm asking you here, can you tell me the volume of everything inside this bag? Yes. So you're gonna measure the volume of the bag with everything inside, and then you get everything out. Alright, so expected that this is everything. Alright. And I would measure the size, the volume of the bag now without my devices on here. And when I check the difference between the two volumes, with the device and without the device, this will tell me the volume of those devices. Same concept when I look at the heart. The heart, at the end of the relaxation, it's going to be filled by blood. The ventricles are going to be filled by blood. So when I measure the volume of my ventricles, actually this is not the volume of my ventricle only, this is the volume of the ventricle as well as my blood inside. And once I contract, I squeeze out the blood out, and the volume that remains at the end of contraction, this is the volume of my ventricles, without the blood, or without the part of the blood that was ejected. So what I measure here is the size of my ventricle at the end of relaxation, and I measure the volume of the ventricle at the end of contraction. This gives me an idea about the amount of blood that I did move to the outside of the ventricle. And again, what do we call the amount of blood that will be pumped in beat? This is called my
Stroke volume.
stroke volume. So in other words, how to calculate stroke volume? Stroke volume is simply the end diastolic volume, the volume at the end of relaxation, end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume. And what's end systolic volume? This is the volume at the end of ventricular contraction. So again, what we're doing here, we're checking cardiac outputs. This is the amount of blood pumped per beat. And how would I be able to tell the amount of blood pumped per beat? You need to know the amount of blood pumped per minute. And in order to know the amount of blood pumped per minute, you need to check the amount of blood pumped per beat. How would I be able to do this? You check the volume of the ventricles filled with blood minus the volume of the ventricles without blood. End diastolic minus end systolic. And the difference between the two volumes is going to be the volume of the blood that you were capable to eject out of your ventricles. All right? Is this clear? Yes? All right, so three major factors that will affect my cardiac output through affecting the stroke volume. First one is going to be the preload. What's preload? This is the amount of stretch that you're going to be applying to your ventricles. Preload, in other words, is going to be the amount of blood getting back to my ventricles. Stretching my ventricles, like any elastic thing, is going to be your muscles. Once you stretch an elastic tissue, what's going to happen when you stretch it? It expands. Once it expands, it will recoil. So the more you stretch, the stronger or the weaker the contraction will be. So if this is the degree of stretch I'm applying here to the muscle,
this would be the contraction. If I apply more stretch, stronger contraction, more stretch, stronger contraction, and so on. So how come preload is going to affect your stroke volume? The more load you're going to be putting on your heart, the more blood that's going to be ejected. Because this amount of blood returning back to the heart, you're going to stretch your cardiac muscle cells, and this will increase the force of contraction, as well as it's going to increase the end diastolic volume. So let's check here. If I did increase the amount of blood getting back to my heart, again, what do we call this load on here? Preload. Preload. What's going to happen to the size of the ventricles at the end of the relaxation phase, end diastolic volume? What's going to happen if you're getting more blood to your heart, more blood to your heart? So will I have an increase or a decrease in the end diastolic?
Increased.
Increase in the end diastolic. So let's check on here. Let's check those numbers. So stroke volume is end diastolic minus end systolic. End systolic will remain the same. What's going to be affected is the end diastolic. So let's do numbers on here. So let's say my stroke volume is 2. 5 minus 3. Now I've increased the preload. Amount of blood coming back to my heart. So you're going to be increasing the end diastolic volume. And when I say increase the end diastolic volume, let's say it's going to move from 5 to 6. So what's going to be the effect here on my stroke volume? 6 minus 3 is going to be 3. So this means I have increased stroke volume. So what is the relationship here between preload and stroke volume? Both will go up and down together. If you increase preload, what's going to happen to stroke volume? It's going to be increased. Why? Why? What part am I affecting? I'm affecting the end diastolic volume. All right? Questions? Anything is not clear? So, if I give a medication, so to make it more applicable, so if a person has hypertension, let's say, and we're going to learn that blood pressure is equal to cardiac output times resistance. Don't worry about the details. This is just to make this information meaningful for you. All right? So one of the medications I will be using to treat this increased blood pressure is to reduce preload. How a reduction of preload going to affect my blood pressure? When you decrease preload, what's going to happen to stroke volume?
Decrease.
Decrease stroke volume. And once I decrease stroke volume, what's going to happen to my cardiac output? Remember, cardiac output is stroke volume times heart rate. So once you decrease stroke volume, what's going to happen to your cardiac output? Decrease. And once you decrease cardiac output, what's going to happen to the blood pressure? Decrease. So some medications to treat hypertension is going to be by reducing the amount of blood going back to the heart, dilating the veins. All right. So again, what's preload? This is the amount of stretch that I will apply to the heart, and this is determined by the amount of blood that will return back, venous return.
So that will be basically the diastolic volume will be whenever how much blood will come in whenever the ventricle is relaxed.
And the diastolic volume is going to be the size of the ventricles at the end of relaxation that, and this will be affected by many factors. One of them is going to be the venous return, which will be applying a preload. All right? Why you're so quiet? All right, so everything is good so far? Yes. All right. So another factor that will affect my stroke volume is going to be afterload. And from its name here, so I will go like this. Let's say this is my vessel. So afterload is the pressure that I need to overcome in order to eject the blood out of my ventricle. So what is, again, afterload? This is the amount of pressure that I have to overcome in order to move the blood from my ventricles to my pulmonary trunk or aorta. All right? Here? All right. This is the definition. So how is this going to be working? If I have hypertension, let's say, what is hypertension? High blood pressure within my arteries. So my arterial blood pressure is high. So in order to move the blood from your ventricles to your arteries, so let's say this is what we're looking at in here is the aorta. In order for me to eject the blood from the ventricle to the aorta, what you need to do? You need to contract your ventricles, right? To do what? Why are we contracting the ventricles?
To eject the blood.
To increase the pressure within the ventricles. To what level? To open the semilunar valves. And why the semilunar valves won't open? Because we do have pressure difference. So I have high pressure here compared to here. So if I didn't have a high pressure, I didn't increase the pressure in my ventricles, but the pressure on the other side of the valve is higher, will I be able to move the blood? No. No. You are moving the blood by increasing the pressure to a level where it exceeds the other side.
So when you have hypertension, is the blood is higher on the opposite side to where it needs to be?
From my ventricles, yes.
From your ventricles, okay.
Yeah, so I have higher pressure in my arteries compared to my, compared to normal, not compared to my ventricles. My ventricles will still have a higher pressure. But the pressure difference, if I have higher arterial pressure, if I have hypertension, rather than having this pressure difference, I will have a reduction in the pressure difference. You see on here, so let's say the pressure here is 120 or 300. And the pressure in my artery is going to be 120. If I have hypertension, the pressure here rather than 120, it's 160. What was the initial pressure difference between the ventricle and the artery? So 300 minus 120, the pressure difference is 180. Now, with hypertension, what is the pressure difference?
140.
It has been dropped from 180 to 140. This is the effective pressure. So it's like when I am pushing a chair and another person is pushing from the other side. And I am stronger. Alright? We have strength difference of 180. So I move in this direction by 180. Okay. So if the other side, if the other person is getting stronger, so the pressure difference, the difference in strength between the two sides is going to be reduce. So what's going to happen to the amount of movements that I will be able to perform? So rather than pushing with 180 in this direction, I'm pushing in 140. So the distance that I will be creating, the movement that I will be creating is going to be less or higher than normal. What do you think? Less than normal. Why? Because of the difference in pressure has been reduced. Less efficient, exactly. So you see on here, after load, whenever you increase after load, like in case of hypertension, I have higher resistance, higher pressures that I need to overcome in order for me to eject the blood into my artery. How is this going to be affecting my stroke volume and cardiac output? So if I have more pressure to overcome in order to eject the blood, so I will not be ejecting enough blood out. So rather than ejecting all the amount of blood that I have, at the end of the cardiac contraction, I will still have some blood that will remain in my ventricle. So which one did I affect, end systolic or end diastolic? So if I'm telling you that because of this reduction in the pressure difference, there will still be blood remaining in the ventricles at the end of contraction. So which one did you affect? The end systolic volume or the end diastolic volume? End systolic volume. And what happens to the end systolic volume? Did it increase or decrease?
Increased.
Increase. So let's do it in numbers. So end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume, I will stick to those numbers, the same. So normally 5 minus 3 is equal to 2. What if I did increase the end systolic volume? Rather than being 3, it's gonna go up to 4. So what happens to my stroke volume? Rather than being 2, it will be 1. So what happens to stroke volume? Decreases. So as I increase the afterload, end systolic volume is going to increase, and as you increase the end systolic volume, you're going to have a reduction in your stroke volume. And how is this going to affect me? If I have reduction in stroke volume, what's going to happen to the amount of blood output per minute?
Decrease.
But you cannot decrease the cardiac output. It has to remain the same. So if I have hypertension, I have reduction in my stroke volume. So how would I compensate for this reduction? For this reduction in stroke volume, one of the early signs of hypertension is going to be increased heart rate. Because you want to maintain normal cardiac output all the time. And you have a reduction in the stroke volume. Stroke volume is reduced, so in order to compensate for this reduction, I need to increase my heart rate. So the patient will come to the hospital, will go to the clinician, and first thing they will tell him, I have palpitation. I can't feel my heart beats. Is there any problem with this? Yes. When will you feel your heart beat? If you have irregular heart rate or you have fast heart rate. Normally, you're not supposed to feel your heart beat. Alright, I will only feel it if it's too high or it's irregular. Anxiety will increase the heart rate and might cause also irregular heart rate. So in both cases, a person with anxiety might feel a palpitation.
When your sugar drops,
Can you repeat, please?
when your sugar
Yes, same concept, because whenever I have a drop in my blood sugar, I will start to send signals to my heart to pump more blood to deliver sufficient amounts of sugar. All right. So again, what happens to my stroke volume in case of increasing afterload? As you increase the amount of pressures that you need to overcome, this will cause a reduction in stroke volume, which is going to be compensated by increase in the heart rate. Right? Clear? Questions? Moving on to the third factor. So we mentioned two factors so far: preload and afterload. Third factor is going to be contractility, and this is the easiest one of the three. Contractility is how strong you are squeezing your ventricles. So if I'm telling you here, this is the normal volume at the end of contraction. So you did dilate and the diastolic, and I contracted and systolic. The difference between the two is going to be the amount of blood pumped per beat, stroke volume. What if I told you that you're going to be squeezing this blood like this? What happens to its volume? Decreases, right? And when I decrease the end systolic volume by increasing the force of contraction, what I mean by force of contraction, how strong you're going to squeeze your cardiac muscle cells. So what happens at the end of contraction, end systolic volume? What happens to the end systolic volume?
It decreases.
Decreases. So let's check here the effect of contractility on your stroke volume. So once I increase contractility, end diastolic minus end systolic, what happens? Which one am I affecting by increasing contractility? By changing contractility, which one am I affecting? Systolic. End systolic. And when I increase contractility, what's going to happen to the end systolic? Decrease. So you see here I have a reduction in end systolic volume. So let's see here the same example. 5 minus 3 is 2. If I did reduce end systolic, so this rather than being 3, I will drop it to 2. So what happens to my stroke volume at this point? Whenever you have a reduction of the end systolic volume, what this will result in? So rather than having 5 minus 3, now I have 5 minus 2. So it will go up to 3. So what happens as a result? Increase. So you see here, we've seen 3 factors: preload, afterload, and contractility. Whenever I increase preload, what's going to happen to the stroke volume? Increase. Whenever you increase afterload, what happens to your stroke volume? Decreases. And the third factor is contractility. Whenever I increase the force of contraction, what's going to happen to my stroke volume? Get more blood out, and this will increase your stroke volume. All right? This information needs a lot of repetition. You need to get the concept, and this is what I'm trying to make sure that you get at this point. And you need to keep practicing this information. You need to think and rethink about this information over and over for it to become like a second nature for you.
Okay.
All right? It's not about memorization. If you decided to memorize it, all the information that we mentioned are logical information. So use the logic in order to comprehend and understand the topic. And once you understand it, keep repeating this information over and over, and you will find it so easy to remember without trying to memorize. If you decided to memorize, most probably you're going to get confused. All right? Any questions?
is it safe to say, looking at the, think about the formula, so for contractibility, you got the SV lowered to the E. I'm trying to figure out the arrows.
Alright, so when I increase contractility, you see on here, force of contraction means what? You squeeze your heart. And like when I squeeze this blood, what happens to its volume? The size it occupies in the space, it's gonna be reduced. Alright? So when you reduce, this is a volume of the heart at the end of contraction or the end of the relaxation? At the end of contraction. So you see here, ESV and systolic at the end of contraction. What's going to happen? When you increase contractility, it's going to be, what happens to the volume at the end of contraction? When you increase contractility, it's going to be reduced. My volume is going to be reduced. So let's see this as an example. So we started with 5 minus 3. Whenever I have a drop, this 3 will become 2. So now I have 5 minus 2 rather than 5 minus 3. So what happens when you drop end systolic to the stroke volume? Rather than being 2, it will go up to 3. Those numbers are just for you to have a good grasp on the concept, rather than just saying this will increase, this will decrease. I put numbers in for you to have a better imagination of what's going on. Those are not real numbers. All right? Yes.
I'm still having a little trouble understanding afterload. So you see how it started from 120 and it raised to 160. Why would that still be considered bad? Because 160 is still less than 300, so 300 would still be pushing out blood easily, right?
All right. Yeah. Yes. So can you come over here? So I am the heart, you are the artery. Alright? So you're going to be pushing with a medium stress.
Okay.
Right? Alright? So I'm pushing with 300, you're pushing with?
I would push with
120.
Okay.
Alright, this is the distance I did travel. This is the amount of blood I did push.
Okay.
Now with your maximum strength.
Okay.
Right? So less movement, less blood ejected.
Okay. So that means that.
So less blood ejected, so what's going to happen? More blood will remain after contraction.
Okay.
And when I have more blood after contraction, you see here, end systolic volume goes up.
Yes.
And when you increase end systolic,
The
what's going to happen?
goes down.
CO goes down.
End systolic. Stroke volume.
Yeah. It goes.
Don't worry about CEO.
Oh.
Don't worry about
Stroke
cardiac
volume.
output now.
Okay.
So walk step by step. So end systolic, once increased from 3 to 4, what's going to happen to stroke volume?
It goes down.
It goes down from 2 to
1.
1. So once you get a decrease in the stroke volume, what's the stroke volume again? Remind yourself every time. Amount of blood pumped per beat. So if you reduce the amount of blood that you pump per each beat,
Right.
what's going to happen to the total amount of blood that you're going to be pumping per 1 minute? It's going to decrease, but you are not allowed to decrease the amount of blood pumped per 1 minute.
Okay.
So how would you be able to maintain it normal? How would I be able to maintain cardiac output normal?
Increasing heart rate.
Increasing heart rate.
All right. Questions?
Can you just explain the changes in preload one more time?
Preload. Preload is the amount of stretch that I will apply to the muscle. And this will be during relaxation. So the more I relax, the larger the volume will be at the end of relaxation. So if I'm telling you I have blood coming back to the heart, this means through my superior and inferior vena cava, right? What's going to happen when you get more blood through superior and inferior vena cava? What's going to happen to the amount of blood reaching your ventricles? Increase. So at the end of relaxation, what's going to happen?
you're gonna have an increase in end diastole. So you see, getting more blood will increase the size of the ventricle at the end of relaxation. So end diastolic will be increased. So you see on here, when you increase end diastolic, what's gonna happen? Rather than being 5, it's gonna be 6. So 5 minus 3 is 2. 6 minus 3 is 3. So what's gonna be the net result on my stroke volume? Increased. Why did I increase? Because simply you've got more blood to pump, more stretch of the muscles, and this will increase the amount of blood pumped per beat. And as a result, of course, will increase the cardiac output. Alright, questions? Alright, we can have a break for 10, we come back.
Arteries that could be carrying all the blood to the systemic organs. This would be mine. Here. And can you remind me, where do you get the aorta from? It's coming from
Left ventricle.
left ventricle. So what we're showing on here is the left ventricle, and we can see the aorta is coming out of the left ventricle. All right, so we're gonna be dividing the aorta into 3 different parts, like this. We start with the ascending aorta, the part that goes up. And remember, we've seen 2 vessels that will come from the ascending aorta. And remind me, what are the 2 arteries that will branch off the ascending aorta to give the blood supply to the heart itself? Veins, and those are draining the organs into the right atrium. Here I'm asking about 2 branches coming out of the ascending aorta to supply oxygenated blood to the heart. Right and left coronary arteries. Right and left coronary arteries, if you remember who is the first person whenever you have a drop in the oxygen level on an airplane?
Yourself.
Who's the first person you need to save is yourself. All right, so you need to supply the heart first. So the arteries that will be supplying the blood, oxygenated blood to the heart itself, this will be my right and left coronary arteries. Those are the 2 branches that we need to remember from the ascending aorta. So first part is going to be ascending aorta. And 2 branches coming from the ascending aorta. Those are my right and left coronary arteries. Again, this is coming from the ascending aorta. This is my first part. Next is going to be this arching part of the aorta, and we're going to call it my aortic arch. The aortic arch on the right side is going to be giving rise to 2 vessels like this. So on the right side, I give rise to 1 vessel that will divide into 2 branches like this. And on the left side, I will give rise to 2 vessels. So how many branches are coming out from my aortic arch?
4. 2. Oh, no.
Again, on the right side you have 1, on the left side you have 2. So
Okay.
Right, so on the right side here. We'll mark it as number 1 here. This is my brachiocephalic trunk. Alright, so from the aortic arch, you're gonna have first branch here. This would be my brachiocephalic trunk. And the brachiocephalic trunk, why did I call it trunk? Remember, like the pulmonary trunk. Why did we call it trunk? It's a short vessel. Why? Why is it a short vessel? Because once it's going to be formed, it will divide into 2 vessels. One vessel that travels up. This is my common carotid artery. And as I am located on the right side of the body, this will be my right common carotid. Second vessel is going to be traveling down below my clavicle, like this, below the clavicle. So I will call it my right subclavian artery. Sub means below, and clavicle, clavian, and it's an artery. Right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery are branches from the brachiocephalic trunk coming from the aortic arch. So you've got, here's my brachiocephalic, this would be my common carotid, this would be my right subclavian artery. Second artery that will rise from the aortic arch, this will be my left common carotid. So left common carotid is a direct branch from my aortic arch. So this is my left common carotid artery. A third branch that will rise from my aortic arch, this would be the artery that travels below the clavicle, but this time it's going to be on my left side. So what do you think I will name this vessel? My left subclavian. Is it an artery or a vein? Artery. So again, what are the 3 branches coming out from my aortic arch? Brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid, left subclavian. Brachiocephalic trunk will divide into right common carotid, right subclavian. Alright, so the subclavian artery is going to be passing down in the armpit. And remind me, something related to the armpit is going to be axillary. So my subclavian artery will become my axillary artery. And this will be taking place in both right and left side. So right subclavian will pass in the axillary region, it will be my axillary artery. Left subclavian will pass in the axillary region, it will be called my right axillary artery. So any right or left subclavian will be, as I pass in the axillary region, the armpit, this will be my axillary artery. The axillary artery then passes in the arm, and remind me please, what is something that would be related to the arm would be called? Brachial. So we're going to call this artery here that travels in the arm, this would be my brachial artery. the brachial artery in the anterior aspect of my cubital fossa, of my elbow, is going to divide into an outer branch and an inner branch. So which bone, can you remind me, is going to be lateral and which bone going to be medial in your forearm? Radius is? Radius is lateral? The radius lateral? Medial?
Radius lateral.
Radius is lateral.
Lateral?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And on my
Outer is
Hold on, is in or out?
outer, inner,
Inner.
radius out.
Radius is out?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Alright, so radius is out. Hold on. Alright, so what do you think I will name the artery that will pass to the outside of the outside aspect of the
Radial
heart?
artery.
Because I can't feel the pulse on here on the outside.
Radial
This
pulse.
will be my
Wasn't it lateral?
radial artery. And what do you think I will name the artery that passes to the medial aspect of the forearm? Or the medial aspect? This would be my ulnar artery. Any questions so far? Alright, so let's follow the common carotids. Right and left common carotids. Each one of the common carotids is right or left will divide into internal carotid and external carotid. Here, internal and external. Internal carotids, right and left internal carotids will go to supply your brain. And we're going to see the details next time. External carotids, they are passing outside, external. So they will be supplying the oxygenated blood to my face and my scalp. So again, common carotids will divide into internal carotids and external carotids. Internal carotids, what do you have inside your head? Brain. So internal will supply your brain. And external, what do you have outside of your head?
Face.
Your face and scalp. So internal carotids will supply brain, and external carotids will supply face and scalp, both on the right and left sides. Moving down, the aorta is going to be moving down in the chest first, and then will travel through the diaphragm, which separates your thoracic cavity from your abdominal cavity. And now the aorta, as it passes down, it's going to pass in the abdomen. So we're going to call this part of the aorta that travels in the abdomen my abdominal aorta. So you're going to have descending aorta here. And the part of the descending aorta that will pass in the abdominal region, this will be my abdominal aorta. The aorta in the abdomen will give many branches. Only a few of them we're going to be concerned with. Actually, in the chest also, the descending aorta going to be giving rise to many branches, but we're not concerned with any of them. So the first branch that will come out of the abdominal aorta, this is called my celiac trunk, or in some textbooks they will say celiac artery. So why some people will call it celiac trunk? Because it has short length. Celiac trunk will give rise to three major branches. One to supply the liver. So what do you think? I would name the artery that will be supplying the liver, something related to the liver is gonna be hepatic. So this first branch that will come out of the celiac trunk, this will be my hepatic artery. A branch that will go and supply the spleen. What do you think I will name the artery that will be supplying my spleen? This will be my splenic artery. So second branch here coming from the celiac trunk, this will be my splenic artery. And what will go and share in the anastomosis, in the connections of blood vessels that will be supplying the stomach? So this will be my left gastric artery. Goes to the stomach to share in its blood supply. So I will draw the stomach like this. So again, what are the three branches coming from the celiac trunk? Again, first one going to the liver, it's my hepatic. Second one is going to the spleen, is going to be splenic. And the third one is going to share in the blood supply of my stomach. So this will be my gastric, or to be more accurate, it is my left gastric artery. Left gastric artery. What's going to be supplied next? We're going to have an artery that will branch off the abdominal aorta to give supply to the small intestine, and we're going to call this artery my superior mesenteric artery. So again, what's going to be supplied by the superior mesenteric is going to be my small intestine, and actually part of the large intestine as well. Next will be two branches, right and left, that will be supplying my kidneys. And something related to the kidney is going to be renal. So you're going to have right and left renal arteries. So again, aorta is coming out from the left ventricle. It's going up. So this part is going to be my ascending aorta. It gives rise to two branches to supply the heart itself. We're going to call those branches my right and left coronary arteries. Then I will have an arch. This is what we're going to call my aortic arch. Aortic arch will give rise to how many branches? Three. One on the right side, this is my brachiocephalic, and it makes sense. Brachio arm, cephalic head. So this is the arteries that will be given blood supply to the brachiocephalic. Brachiocephalic, arm and head. So brachiocephalic will divide into an artery that travels below the clavicle and an artery that goes up into my neck. So the ones that travels below my clavicle, this will be my right subclavian. The ones that travels up into my neck, this is my right common carotid. On the left side, left common carotid, left subclavian are direct branches from the aortic arch. We don't have brachiocephalic trunk on the left side. What's going to happen to the aorta next? Aorta, after it arches, it's going to move down. And as I move down in the chest, this is what we're going to call the thoracic aorta. Don't worry about it. We have no branches that we're concerned with
It's in this coming from this part. As the descending aorta travels through the diaphragm, it's now becoming my abdominal aorta. Abdominal aorta was going to be the first short branch. Celiac trunk. Celiac trunk. Celiac trunk will be given a branch to supply the liver. What do we call it? Hepatic artery. A branch to supply the spleen. A branch that shares in the blood supply of the stomach. This will be my left gastric artery. Left gastric artery. Alright, so left gastric artery. What is the next branch that will be supplying my small intestine and part of the large intestine? This is my superior mesenteric artery. And then two branches to supply my right and left kidneys. Those are my right and left renal arteries. Right and left renal arteries. Another branch that will come from the abdominal aorta is going to be supplying the remaining part of the large intestines. This will be my inferior mesenteric artery. So inferior mesenteric artery here. Mesenteric means related to the intestines. We'll be supplying the remaining part of the large intestine. I don't want to get into the details, but if you already know, the large intestine has an ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid, rectum. Those are the different parts. So inferior mesenteric is going to be mainly concerned with the blood supply to the descending and sigmoid colons. So distal part of the colon, of the large intestine. Alright? So don't worry about the details. We're going to get to this when we discuss the digestive system later. Alright, so here I'm supplying the remaining part of the large intestine. What's going to happen to the abdominal aorta? The abdominal aorta will divide into two branches, like this. Those are going to be considered terminal branches. Why? Because simply you don't have abdominal aorta anymore after you form those two branches. Those two branches are my right and left common iliac arteries. So this would be my right common iliac. This would be my left common iliac. Each one of the common iliacs will divide into an internal iliac and an external iliac. Internal, I'm passing to the inside. Inside of what? Inside of the pelvis. So internal iliac here is traveling down to supply my pelvic organs. External iliac is going to be traveling below my inguinal ligament. So this is my external iliac. It passes below the inguinal ligament and into the thigh. And remember, something related to the thigh is going to be femoral. So this will be my femoral artery. Femoral artery is going to be traveling posteriorly to the part located behind the knee. And remember, something related to the posterior aspect of the knee. This would be my popliteal. So, something related to the posterior aspect of the knee is popliteal. So the artery here, as it travels posterior to the knee, this is my popliteal artery. Popliteal artery will then divide into two terminal branches. One that travels on the anterior aspect of the leg, and another one that travels on the posterior aspect of the leg. The anterior one, can you remind me what is the large bone of your leg? Is it the tibia or the fibula?
Tibia.
Tibia, right? So I will call this anterior branch my anterior
Tibial
tibial artery. Can you guess the posterior one? Posterior tibial artery. And then the anterior tibial artery is going to be traveling on the dorsum of my foot. So can you remind me, something related to the foot is going to be pedal, right? So I am on the dorsum of the foot. So I will call this artery my dorsalis.
Dorsal pedal artery.
Pedis artery. Dorsalis on the dorsum. Pedal is going to be foot. So on the dorsum of the foot is dorsalis, pedis, and I'm an artery, so I will call it dorsalis pedis artery. Alright, those are the main arteries that you're going to need to cover. Not all the arteries, of course. Just few. Alright. So again, let me repeat what we mentioned so far. What is the largest artery that will be supplying oxygenated blood to all the systemic organs? This would be my aorta. It's coming from my right or left ventricles? Left ventricle. It's going to be moving up first. So as it moves up, we're going to call it ascending. And then it's arteries. So we're going to call the arch aorta. Then it moves down. Descend. It travels through the diaphragm to travel in my abdomen, so we're going to call it abdominal lumen. Two branches that will rise from the ascending. What's the first thing that you need to supply? What organ is most important for you to get oxygen to? What's the first and most important organ that you need to supply with oxygen? Heart itself. You need to help yourself first. So you're going to be conducting oxygenated blood through the right and left. What vessels? Coronary arteries. That's too big. That's a very big one compared to this. I didn't figure this out when I was close. Alright. Next one should be good. Alright, so from the arch, how many branches? 3. On the right side you have brachiocephalic trunk. Then left common carotid, left subclavian. Brachiocephalic will divide into right common carotid, right subclavian. Subclavian means below the clavicle. Alright? What's going to happen to the subclavians? Subclavian will travel in the now. This would be axillary, and then brachial, and then radial, and abdominal. What are the direct branches? Celiac trunk, superior mesenteric, right and left renal, inferior mesenteric. And what are the two terminal branches of the abdominal aorta? My right and left common iliac arteries. Right and left common iliac artery. Each common iliac will divide into internal and external iliacs. Internal, where they move in? They move in your pelvis. So they will supply pelvic organs, like what? Like the urinary bladder, like the uterus, rectum. Alright? So internal iliac. And external iliac is going to travel out of the pelvis. Moves below the inguinal ligament, travels in the thigh, something related to the thigh is going to be femoral artery, and then will travel to the posterior aspect of the knee. This would be popliteal artery. Will divide into two branches, anterior tibial, posterior tibial. Continuation of the anterior tibial is going to be my external or dorsalis pedis artery. Alright, so please study this before coming to next class, because it's going to become much more complicated when we get to the veins. Alright, on your way out, please put a star next to your name. On here, next to the number. If you didn't have your name on here, please add your name, print, sign, and date. Put a star next to your name on the left side.